Good evening, folks. This is Deb Delapiana and Dave Denton, and this is your weekly wake-up call. I'm turning it right over to Dave for part one. This will be a two-parter tonight.
So we're going to be talking about history and how we process history and how a lot of the times we don't want to hear certain things because we like a person or we don't like a person. We're going to be talking about Russian assets. This is Russian asset part one, Tulsi Gabbard. Okay. She recently declared that she was leaving the elitist cabal of the Democratic Party. And she conveniently made this announcement at the same time she was announcing her new YouTube show called The Tulsi Gabbard Show, just so you know. She is stating that the Democrats are war hawks and they are bad people, and they are also involving themselves in anti-white racism. We're going to be talking about anti-white racism, which we call history, by the way, in part two. So gear up for that. What I do want to talk about a little bit is the history of Tulsi Gabbard. So there have been all sorts of allegations, and they're turning out to be true, actually. Let's see here. So she's leaving the Democratic Party because they're an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness. Now, I will explain in the second part of this. Wokeness is not cowardly. Waking up is realizing that you were wrong and admitting it. And she also talks about truth in her little YouTube speech.
Can I just tell you what wokeness actually is?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's actually caring about your fellow man. It's actually caring about other people. It's actually teaching your kids empathy. It's actually teaching your kids that not everybody is white milk toast and all the same. Right. That's what wokeness is. And that's what America is all about, no matter what the right wing is telling you.
She called the Democrats cowards. This Raw Story article mentions that, yeah, Democrats were cowards by not kicking her out of the party back when she was part of the CPAC conference in 2022, and saying that she felt right at home, talking about woke and cancel culture, railing against gays and lesbians, and talking about anti-gay and lesbian and LGBTQ legislation.
By the way, though, we should mention that the Democratic Party of Hawaii held her accountable.
Yeah. Yep. So back at home on the same day, members of the subcommittee of the Oahu County Committee of the Democratic Party of Hawaii approved a resolution of 15-2 vote that condemned Gabbard for participating in an event that raised funds that will harm Democrats across the country and make it harder to achieve the goals of the Democratic Party, which is CPAC, which flies in the face of everything.
They are actually the cowards.
Right. Now, there's another thing in here about the Joe Rogan show where she's talking to Joe Rogan about the debunked claim that you have kids asking to pee in litter boxes in schools. That's untrue. Okay, that's untrue. But what is true is that we have evidence that she is a long-term member. Come on. Of a radical Hare Krishna group. You know, she invited Modi to her wedding. It was an Indian, an Indian authoritarian. And this is actually a really good article from a few days ago, talking about her, her ties to radical groups. So let me see if I can. It's being ornery. So, yeah, and her being on the Tucker Carlson show over and over again, and things of that nature. I also know that at one point Hillary called her a potential Russian asset. Now, is that true? She is spreading misinformation about the Ukraine. I suggest, I can't really scroll through this article, so I'm going to go off of share right now. But understand, Tulsi Gabbard is not who we thought she was. And the difference between Tulsi Gabbard and the next person we're going to be talking about is she is spreading propaganda and lies. She may be that if you're a right-wing scumbag, if you're telling the truth, I'm going to say you're telling the truth. She's not. She's spreading garbage. She's going on her own show. She's going on Joe Rogan's show. She's spreading propaganda and garbage, like the story about the kids asking for litter boxes. And by the way, schools do use cat litter for other things. So Deb mentioned that you use it to get rid of paint.
Yep.
Or maybe, put it on ice or something. So that is a completely debunked story already. And the reason she's doing that is, and there is information in that story, in that article. Please read it if you're interested in her extremist ties to a cult, which is highly researched at this point. Just read.
It's all there, folks. There's nothing out there that's not indicating to you. And there's stuff that's been out there that's been indicative of exactly who she is for a very long time. She started spreading the bullshit about the United States having bioweapons labs in the Ukraine. We've heard all of this fucking before. Yep. We've heard this all before. Okay, this is all, bullshit that she can't prove. And
by the way,
the people out there who are out in the ozone think if you can't prove it, then it must be true because they're hiding it from you.
Even Mitt Romney is calling her horrendous. Mitt Romney. Okay, so I'm going to call her out on her hypocrisy and use another supposed Russian asset historian, Howard Zinn. And we're going to be talking about him a little bit and why he is different. Okay, you may disagree with even his politics, but what he is saying is the truth, as opposed to what she is spreading, by the way, to promote herself, to promote Fox News, and to promote her new YouTube truth show. So you guys, part 2.
And to promote fascism, because what?
That too.
We all know that women have been instrumental in pushing fascism for years. For example, in Italy. We'll be back with part 2. All right.
You're still recording.
Just under 10 minutes.
You're still recording.
Oh yeah, I'm still recording. Hi, I'm still recording. Good evening, folks. This is part 2 of our weekly wake-up call on, authoritarians, fascists, Russian assets, you name it. Here's Dave.
And paying attention to truth and history. So part 1, we talked about Tulsi Gabbard, who left the Democratic Party because they are too militaristic and they also push anti-white wokeness. What she didn't point out is this little fact about, by the way, her own state. I know this was a while ago, but this is July 8th, 1898. We have a petition against the annexation of the territory of Hawaii at that point. And there was an overwhelming majority of Hawaiians that didn't want the United States to be involved. The United States didn't care. They annexed the area anyway and took it over. The first governor, even though it wasn't a state for a while, the first governor was Sanford Dole. Does that name sound familiar? He's Robert Dole's cousin. Here is my point. The reason why you have right-wingers who don't want you to know about history is because they don't want you to know that people did bad things or are going to continue to, so they can continue to do bad things. So the person who pointed this out in this particular website, in this particular book, his name is Howard Zinn. Now, he passed away in 2010, but he has a book, The History of the United States. Deb probably has it on her desk or somewhere near her.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah. So it is a book that tells the truth about what Americans have done in the past. And I pointed this out a day, 2 days ago. Well, Howard Zinn is a communist, a Marxist, and Che Guevara and so. My response was, okay, did he tell the truth? The response is, well, he's a communist and he's a Marxist. We don't want to listen to him. So the answer is yes, he told the truth. Here's a little tidbit about Howard Zinn's FBI files. Reveal the communist allegations. Now, he was also a friend of Noam Chomsky, but this was during the McCarthy era. So those of you who continue to ignore Howard Zinn's recollection of history because of his communist ties, his Marxist ties, or whatever, by the way, you're a McCarthyist. So, would you rather listen to Tulsi Gabbard, who has been accused of being a Russian asset, and by the way, might actually be one? We didn't want to hear that back in the day because it was Hillary Clinton. Or would you rather listen to Howard Zinn, who also, by the way, was instrumental in helping whistleblower Daniel Ellsberg? He and Noam Chomsky helped transcribe all of those tomes. Just so you know.
And just so you know, the whole purpose of his book, A People's History of the United States, was that he felt too much credit for what had been achieved here was focused on people like George Washington,
right,
and all of the usual suspects that the history books elevate, when actually average citizens contributed to what went on here. And all he was doing was telling these stories through their eyes. So that's the best thing about Howard Zinn's approach to history in his book, A People's History of the United States. And by the way, he has a companion website for teachers. So,
he does.
Yeah.
This is also another site, the Zinn Project, which is where I got the annexation information. You can go to the home site from there. Also, there is this website called Americans Who Tell the Truth. And I thought that this quote was pretty interesting because I hear it from a lot of people. It sounds a lot like Bernie, or back in the day, maybe Tulsi might say this. The rule of law does not do away with the unequal distribution of wealth and power, but reinforces that inequality with the authority of law. It allocates wealth and poverty in such calculated and indirect ways as to leave the victim bewildered. What is wrong with that? Especially in this day and age. He passed away in 2010. I believe that was right around the time of Citizens United.
It was.
So I don't know.
2010 was Citizens United.
Yeah, so I don't know if he actually lived to see that, but I'm sure that he saw something like that coming. But to me, it's a telling sign.
Yeah, well, we have McCarthyism coming back here. This is all you hear from people now. They can't figure out the difference between socialism and communism. They can't figure even out what the fucking definition of each term is, but they throw it around like they're the experts. You know, they should just go and get some fake police badges and they could stand up at a podium like Herschel Walker and declare themselves officers of the law while they're at it.
Or all of a sudden we're Nazis.
Right. We're going back to those days, folks, when, you know, if you don't toe the line of fascism, you're going to be called a whole lot of things. And the right wing loves to attack dead people. They do the same thing with John McCain. Not that I'm a fan of John McCain.
Right.
Because I really wasn't as, on a political scale. But, it's cowardly to attack people who are dead and can't defend themselves. That's what cowards do. So have a good time doing that.
So we're going to be talking about more history, but we're also going to blend it in with the present, and that's the history of the Tea Party and how that affected current politics, and how basically it was co-opted by the MAGA movement, and just that created a complete shit show. And you still have original Tea Partiers either running for office or in office now, like Ted Cruz and like Sarah Palin and others.
And by the way, you also have donors from the Tea Party donating to these candidates.
Correct. Absolutely. So thanks for listening.
We'll be back with the big show.
See you at the big show.